Welcome everyone to Mail Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 7 Episode 2. It's called Liaisons. So full spoilers for the episode, as always. This one features an exchange of sorts. We're meeting this sort of alien race for the first time, and two of them are going to stay aboard the Enterprise for a couple of days, and they've been assigned crew members to sort of show them around. And Picard is going back to their planet with someone, and the idea being that he'll learn stuff on the other end. Obviously, things don't go quite to plan, seemingly. Picard's shuttle with this other alien dude goes down, and they have to crash land on this M-class planet. Convenient M-class planet that's nearby. Yeah. Like, I know, given what it reveals by the end, it's not a coincidence, but I'm just saying, like, Star Trek's got a history of very convenient M-class planets everywhere.
It does. This is kind of one of the few times you can't call it convenient, though.
I know, but the point is I was thinking it in the moment. Like, as soon as he said, there's an M-class planet over there, I'm like, oh, is there? Is there? It's very convenient.
Isn't there always, though, at this point? So,
like, I know the ending justifies it. I'm just saying that in the moment, my cynicism was warranted.
All right.
So, that's it. Also, Eric loves dessert. More on that when we get into it. So, what did you make of this episode?
It was okay. I thought so out of the three threads, the Picard stuff probably has the best ending, but is far and away the weakest and least enjoyable to watch over the course of the episode.
It's a weird plot, for sure. I think once they start having trouble on the shuttle, I'm like, okay. I was like, okay, I can see what they're doing here. It's going to be Picard and this guy having to survive together, and they're going to bond, yada yada. But then quite quickly, it like seems to shift to, no, the alien dude's dead, and this random woman who's been marooned here for years is going to fall in love with Picard, and that's her plot for Picard for the rest of the episode. Now, obviously, it reveals some things at the end, but there's a good portion of the middle of this episode where Picard is basically fighting off sexual assault at one point. That's the path that it kind of goes down, and it's very, very weird as a plot line.
Yeah, it's with hindsight of the ending, it makes sense.
Or it's even weirder.
Yes, but while watching, it's just kind of there going, what is going on? What is this episode?
I mean, so I guess we just start at the end and work our way back so we can explain.
Yeah,
you know what we're talking about here. So Picard crash lands on this planet. He ends up getting knocked out by like a little spark of lightning. This planet's got a lot of like these like storms that are going around. He gets knocked out, and this woman takes him back to this old ship that she's living in. And her story turns out to be that she crash landed here. She doesn't realize how long it's been until she tells Picard the date, but it turns out to be 7 years. And I thought quite early, I was thinking, you know what, I'm getting this kind of like Lorraine McFly vibe here, where she's kind of falling for Picard because it's the first person she's seen in a long time. It's almost like she's trying to stop him from getting them rescued because she's sabotaging the equipment. Even what she's told him about his injuries is probably false. Turns out it is false. And all this is playing out, and it's like, okay, it's a weird thing because part of me is like, well, it feels really predictable as it's going, but at a certain point, because of what the ending is, it like kind of makes sense that it's predictable. So
because it's really cliche and awkward, but that's kind of the point.
Yeah, she tells him that she loves him, and Picard's just very kind about it, but he's like, look, you know, like, I'm the first person you've seen in 7 years. I've given you hope that you're finally going to leave. I think you're just jumping the gun a bit here. But when he tries to like say no later, like she grabs him and pins him down and is like saying, love me, and he
has got seemingly broken ribs at this point, so isn't really physically capable to fight her off properly.
No, I think he's realized by this point that he's not got broken ribs.
Has he?
I think this is after he's taken off the doohickey she put on him to make him think he had injured ribs.
Yeah, the doohickey, yeah.
But I actually like, and it's kind of a dark implication of a scene, but I actually laughed out loud when Patrick Stewart yells out, "Anna, no!" when she's like pinning him down, and it gave me this weird kind of chuckle. I didn't understand why he couldn't fight her off more than he was. I guess he was just trying to be not polite, but like, you know, he's
Gentlemanly.
Yeah, gentlemanly. The whole thing just felt weird, which is why the ending. And honestly, again, this feels predictable, because when the alien dude shows up and says, "No, I wasn't dead, but my race, like our metabolism, all of our body functions, they basically go into hibernation mode to like save themselves. So I would have appeared dead." So he shows up, and very quickly he says something about a nearby crevice, and maybe the woman's going to commit suicide, and it's so specific to something she said earlier in the episode that I was like, wait a minute. This is fishy all over. Even you're fishy now. What's going on? And Picard, it doesn't take him too much longer to like try to start noticing something's wrong. But the twist, the reveal, is that this woman has been this alien dude the whole time. And this ties into the subplot with the others, but his goal, his personal goal for this meeting was to experience something they don't understand. In his case, love. Their species does not have love, and he wants to experience love. So, let's go back to when Anna's kissing Picard and saying, love me, and try to pin him down. Like, obviously the point here is that he doesn't understand that what he's doing is very, very wrong. And Picard kind of says that. He says, we consider what you did to me here a crime. Like, you did something wrong here.
Yeah, but he does also acknowledge that they don't understand that, and it would be really bad diplomacy to, you know, assume that they did and act as if it was a crime.
But that's still not satisfying, though. It's so strange, because I mean, there's a scene earlier on in the episode where, because the whole subplot with Worf, right, is that his diplomat, right, and Worf didn't want a diplomat. He hates the idea of doing this. It was
assigned to Riker first, until the guy was like, "Nope, I want that one."
Yep. And it turns out later this particular diplomat had to experience aggression. So he spends all episode trying to piss off Worf. He treats Worf like he's his little bitch. He's like, go get me food. Go do this. Go do that. You're an idiot. And he says to Geordi, you smarter than this one? He's saying things like that all episode. To the point where it's quite obvious he's trying to like get a rise out of him. So it's not a surprise later on when Worf finally starts throwing punches that he starts smiling and goes, aha, finally, that was exhilarating. I'm going to go note down my findings.
It just switches immediately. Like, his whole personality is like, oh, this is great.
But the reason why I bring this plot up now is because there's a scene when Worf's like angry, before he's like finally started throwing punches, he's talking to Troy and Riker, and he's angry, he's yelling that he wants to rip his throat out and whatever else. And he sits down, and Troy actually says, look, you should probably tell your diplomat that some of the things he's doing are not appropriate. It's okay to sort of teach them what our culture's boundaries are. And I feel like when we get to the end of this episode and Picard actually compliments the alien diplomat, says, you know what, I appreciate how extreme your methods are and how much you try to experience something hands-on. I'm like, I'm just going to have to assume that off camera you explained that love can't be forced and that love is something that has to be chosen by both people, but we never see any of that.
Yeah, obviously there's clearly a Picard speech on the cutting room floor.
I hope there is.
Yeah, but why am I defending this episode? It's not even like good.
Why are you defending this?
Because you made me want to defend this end point here, because I think it's probably the strongest point of the episode.
I don't know. It makes
and that's not just because it's over.
And I think the way Picard kind of lets this go lightly without sternly making it clear what he did was wrong,
but he does. He does. He's like, no, what you did would be a crime. Like, you can't. It's very clear that you can't do that.
Yeah, but he's back to smiling and sort of like, just say, let's get off this planet then, immediately.
Because lessons learned, like, okay, you can't do this. But
No. He is not stern enough. There is no way he gets across the violation that this guy has committed. Right?
I'm sure he does on the shuttle ride back.
That's not, no, you can't just say, I'm sure he did on the shuttle ride back.
Well, I'm sure he does.
The stern talking to does not fit the crime that was committed.
Possibly not.
right? The only interesting thing here is that there was a real marooned woman here. There was a man that landed later. They did fall in love and presumably died here together at some later point. So it was based on like this real journal that they found, and they tried to like recreate it with Picard. And it's like, okay, fine. I don't necessarily think the idea of what they're trying to explore here is necessarily that bad. I just don't think they even come close to actually addressing. Well, one, it's not that entertaining to watch most of the plot. That's
Really not, no.
That's problem number one. Problem number two is I don't think they come close to even saying something meaningful about it at the end. Like it's missing the, you know, like you say, the speech. It's missing the key lesson, and like, because it is quite interesting to say, hey, we've got an episode where our characters are going to be diplomats and they're meeting this culture for the first time. It actually might be interesting to say this other culture is going to cross a line, and how do we tackle that appropriately and make it clear that they have offended us effectively, and sort of deal with that in a diplomatic way. And I don't think this episode actually does that. I think this episode just kind of dances around it.
I agree that it does dance around that, and I'm not even sure that was the aim they set out with. You know, when they start around this episode, they're like, oh, this. You know, I don't know if that was the aim of the episode. It was to see what happens when they cross the line. Because it's not that it does a bad job of showing it. I don't think it even tries to show, you know, to be that point at the end of the episode. Like, I kind of hate to say it, I don't think it has a point. It's supposed to, it doesn't feel like it was meant to have a point. It feels like it was just meant to be entertaining.
I feel that the subject that they stumble into with the Picard plot specifically,
yes,
right? Because the other plots are mostly just comic relief, right? And at times actually quite amusing. But the Picard plot, I like, they stumble into some very serious territory that is manipulation, it's gaslighting, it's, I mean, I won't call it sexual assault, it doesn't quite go that far, but like it's kind of, you know, inching on the door, you know, it's knocking on the door of that subject.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
And then the entire time it's not really been the person that he thought it was looking at. Like all of it is just like this is a very serious topic to start to delve into, and to just sort of like, I don't know, just flutter it away like it's not a big deal. I don't know. I just, the whole thing left me feeling just kind of weird, and like this was a whiff. This was a whiff of an episode.
Yeah. I think, like I said, the subplots are okay to watch. Like,
they're fine.
They're all right. Which is why I say those things they're okay. The guy just stuffing his face with cake repeatedly is mildly amusing.
Well, yeah, just to explain what that is. So Troy's got her diplomat at a buffet table, and he's loading up on food, right? Like an obscene amount. And he's like, why are you not eating? Your plate's empty. And she's like, oh, I'm just waiting for the dessert section. Which did make me question, wait, Troy, do you only eat dessert? Like, is it not dinner time? Why are you not eating at least some dinner? But what, maybe Betazoids are...
Because she's like a 12-year-old. No, I'm a 12-year-old, like a 6-year-old.
But she explained, because they don't have food for pleasure, they only have sustenance. So she explains that there's desserts that aren't good for you, they're just purely for pleasure, and introduces them to a few cakes and things like that. And he takes one, taste of the chocolate cake, and he's like, oh my god, oh, this is delicious. And then the running gag with this guy for the rest of the episode is that he's stuffing his face with either cake, chocolate, like...
There's a point where they run into like a kid, and he's like, do you like dessert? I bet you like dessert. Let's go get some dessert. Hold
on. At first, he starts looking at the kid, and he goes, what's this? Because they don't have children in their culture. So he's like, what is this thing? And they're explaining, this is a child, it grows into an adult, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, do you have a name? And he's like, Eric. And the whole time, Eric is like weirded out by this alien staring at him. Until the alien goes, hey, Eric, do you like dessert? And he's like, oh, as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, I do.
Shocking.
So the alien takes out Eric's over the moon that he's getting some free dessert. I mean, everything's free in Star Trek. But you know what I mean.
But he's got an excuse to go and have dessert, and his mum can't do shit about it because, hey, this is diplomacy.
Yes, precisely. So yeah, it's an entertaining subplot. I did get a little chuckle because obviously Riker's whole idea to try and settle things between Worf and his diplomat is to have a game of poker with the diplomats, and it's meant to calm everything down. But the diplomat with Worf is like cheating, and then it turns into a fight. This is where they fight. There's a couple of moments where it cuts back to like the other diplomat who's addicted to the candy and stuff.
Eating.
He's just eating chocolate. It's like chocolate cubes he's eating. He's just like, yeah.
I know, like while Worf's fighting, like he's finally like throwing punches, and you just see the guy still in the background, just chowing down.
Yep. And at the end of the scene, he offers Troy one, and Troy takes one. Because the other gag here is that Troy's got a sweet tooth, but this guy's like testing her limits. Like she can't. Because I think at the end of the buffet scene, he picks up with the tray with all the cupcakes and just takes the entire tray over to the table.
Yeah.
Which, admittedly, if you only had like savory food your entire life, just because no one had ever introduced you to like cakes and chocolate, and then just gave you a plate of cakes and you tried it, and assuming you liked it, which most people probably will, because let's face it, it's cake. Okay, or whatever treat you enjoy.
Funnily enough, it's mostly savory things.
You like donuts?
Yeah. But I can't really eat them as much anymore, so I don't think about it.
Well, okay, but for most, I'm just saying, it's a natural reaction to me to think that although I was thinking in my head that Troy may end up killing this guy with really, really quick diabetes if she keeps letting him eat the way he's eating. Because he's just plowing down sugar and fat like constantly for like 3 days.
Well, maybe it's good for him. We don't know that it's not.
Oh, he's got a different physiology. Yeah.
It could also be poison, but yeah. I'm assuming it's not.
Chocolate's technically poisonous to humans. It's just that the lethal dose is so high that no one could ever feasibly actually hit it. Although chocolate's not good for dogs. It can kill dogs relatively quickly.
Honestly, it's pretty bad for a lot of small animals. The ones that you keep as pets.
Yeah. So a lion can. They're fine.
Honestly, I just assume sheer mass. The lion will be like, in the same way that we do. Be like, it'll be fine. Whereas a hamster probably not so much.
Well, yeah. Hamster's tiny. You're saying we brute force some of these things with just.
That is basically what we do with chocolate, isn't it? We just brute force our way through and be like, yeah. It was like, even like a lot, like even like alcohol. Your liver just brute forces through it and goes, yeah, don't worry about it. Oh, now you're dead.
Well, I'll tell you, until one day where it can't brute force it anymore.
Yeah.
And I hope one day when Connor finally dies of liver failure, someone inserts this clip into the eulogy or whatever's happening.
Yeah, that would be kind of perfect if that did happen.
The only question is how long.
Well, I've got at least 3 or 4 years yet.
Well, so you're going to make it to like your mid-30s and no more. That's it.
Perfect time.
All right. Well, there we go. I don't have anything else to add in this one, to be honest. It's an odd episode. It feels like Picard's story takes this weird left turn, and even though it turns out to be connected by the end, it wasn't enjoyable the entire time when it felt like a left turn.
Yeah, so I quite like the ending of Picard's thing because I'm like, I like this angle and the way it ties in, and the fact that it is just so alien, like this, and their version of diplomacy is just trying to understand this. So I like the idea of the plot that it did. I just didn't enjoy watching the plot.
Okay. Well, next up, we'll be back to Deep Space Nine, but next time on The Next Generation, we have an episode called Interface. Here's a description on IMDb. Geordi is distracted by the news of the possible loss of his mother while he uses a new remote probe technology to search for a downed spacecraft. Okay.
Potential.
I was worried it was going to be a Geordi romance episode when it started with the word Geordi, but then no, this is just,
I really hope it's not.
Normal stuff. Very good. But there you go. That's next time on track. But that is us. Thank you very much for joining us. You can of course support all the content over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and help keep it coming. And if you can't do that over there, you can at least hit the like button on YouTube. Helps more people find the reviews, so please do. But that is the show, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, and somewhere out there, a Wesley Crusher yells, "Anna, no!"